For this problem, we're asked to find all the values of x for which this product, this expression, is greater than 0. So in other words, we're looking at a product of two numbers, two real numbers. We want to know when that's positive. Well, we know that the product of two numbers, two real numbers here, product of two real numbers is going to be positive, greater than 0, provided that the two numbers are both either positive or both negative. So provided the two numbers have the same sign. So if we're looking for where these two numbers would have the same sign, one way that we can do this is using what we call a sign chart. So basically, we're going to look at a number line, and on that number line, we're going to look at the two expressions, x minus 2 as one number and x plus 5 as the second number, and figure out the sign of those expressions. So if we look at, let's start the first one, the sign of the quantity x minus 2. Well, if you think about putting numbers in for x, I know that when x is 2, let me put that on my number line, then this expression is equal to 0. So up until that point, if I'm putting in a number smaller than 2 for x, and I subtract 2, then I'm going to have a negative number. So up until that point where x equals 2, x minus 2 is negative. Once I'm plugging in a number bigger than 2, I subtract 2 and I get a positive number. So that gives me the value, the sign of that expression. Now let's do the same thing for the sign of our second number, x plus 5. Now that number, that expression, would be equal to 0 at x equals negative 5. So that's when it's equal to 0. Up until that point, if I plug in a number smaller than negative 5, like negative 6, when I add 5, I get negative 1. So up until that point, that number will be negative. Once I get past negative 5, I add 5 to it, and it will turn positive. So that means that the sign of that product, I can look and see that as long as I'm in, this is basically breaking it into 3 intervals, as long as I'm in this interval where both of the numbers are negative, I will get a positive when I multiply them together. Or in this part of the number line where they're both positive, I will get a positive number. Now in the middle, I have a negative times a positive, which gives me a negative. So these are the two intervals, the values of x, where this inequality is satisfied, where that product is greater than 0, it's positive. So this interval we can describe as x is less than negative 5. This interval we can describe by the inequality x is greater than 2, and any value of x in either of those intervals will satisfy this inequality.